In this video, we're going to look at how to find what I call the LSA, which is the lateral surface area, and the TSA, the total surface area of rectangular prisms. So if we look at this topic here, there's a couple things that you have to identify if you're going to solve one of these. And first of all, you got to identify the base. And so we're going to talk about some of these different variables that you see here. And before we start, we want to identify the base, and the base is going to be the top or bottom of the shape, with the exception of sometimes they'll get these and they'll turn them sideways. In other words, they might flip it around like this. And usually if they flip it around like this and they want you to recognize the base on the side, it'll be shaded in for you. And so typically if you don't see it shaded in, well, then what you're going to do is you're going to kind of look at these dotted lines here and also consider that the bottom or the top is the base. And again, if it's not shaded in, the base is the top or bottom. And if it is shaded in and it's flipped sideways like this, just be watching for that. That will represent the base on the right instead of the bottom. Now with that being said, we're going to go ahead and we're going to find our base. Notice I shaded mine in already pink down here at the bottom. Now there's actually two bases, because in all honesty we could actually look up here and I could shade this top part in, because this top part is considered a base as well. So it is the top and bottom of the object. So I'm going to write a little line here and I'm going to write base. And right here, this is the base. Now the reason that's important is because we're going to be taking some measurements from the base as we're trying to find the lateral surface area and total surface area. And this will also relate when you get into volume of these types of shapes later on. Now notice for lateral surface area, what we call LSA, it's equal to P and H. I do want you to keep in mind that when we talk about the variable P, we're actually talking about the perimeter. So I'm going to write that out. That is the perimeter. And the perimeter is really just the distance around the base. So if I went to this base and I got this side plus this side plus this side plus the top side, that would be the perimeter. And so what I usually do is I'll draw a little box. I'm going to label it real quick. I notice on this base we have a 7 on this bottom side of the base. And then on this side over here it says 2. So I'm drawing it as a 2D shape here and just labeling it. Now if the bottom was 7, then that top side's got to be 7 and the left side's got to be 2. So if I wanted to find the perimeter, I would just simply add all 4 of those numbers. And to give you an example, the perimeter, I'm going to put it in parentheses because we're replacing P with some values, is going to be 7 plus 7 plus 2 plus 2. In other words, it's the length plus the length plus the width plus the width. Now that's how we find the perimeter of it. That's all 4 sides of the base, and we'll add them together and it'll tell us the distance around it. Now on the other hand, we have to find the height, and the height in this is going to be just a little bit different. So let me go ahead and just draw an arrow here, and I'm going to write the word over here. I'm going to write height. And when we find the height, what we're going to do, I'm just going to draw an arrow coming down. It is going to be the distance between the two bases. And this is very important. It is the distance between the two bases. And so it's from here all the way down here. And I'm going to write right here, height. So in this case, it happens to be 4. So it's always important to shade in your bases, regardless if it's turned sideways or if your bases are on top and bottom, so that you can go ahead and determine the distance between the two bases. Because when you shade them in, then you just find a line that connects those two bases, right? And whatever that measurement is that's beside that line, that is going to be your height of the shape. So now we just need to put this in a calculator, and we'll have what we call the lateral surface area of this rectangular prism. I'm going to go ahead and take my perimeter. So I'm going to put parentheses 7 plus 7 plus 2 plus 2, and then I'm going to multiply it to my height in parentheses. So notice that the way that I write it is exactly how we put it into the calculator, right? So basically, we replaced a variable with a set of numbers, so it goes in parentheses. Always when you replace a variable with a set of numbers, put it in parentheses. And the calculator understands that means to multiply the perimeter times the height. And so for this particular shape, my lateral surface area is going to be 72. So I'm going to write over here, LSA is equal to 72. And let's say this is centimeters. So 72 centimeters squared. So I'm just going to add centimeters to each one of these measures. Now, this is how we found the lateral surface area. Now, the total surface area is going to be very similar. Notice we still have the perimeter times the height, but now we're adding something else. We have 2 times big B. So we already know that this is the perimeter and this is the height. So big B, I'm just going to add that definition to the mix, and that's going to be called the area of the base. And we're going to be seeing this formula over and over again. The lateral surface area is perimeter times the height. And then for total surface area, it's perimeter times the height plus 2 times the area of the base. And I say most of the shapes. For instance, a cylinder, right? We find that instead of a perimeter, we call it the circumference. But be familiar with these letters that you see here, these variables, right? Because you're going to see them come up a lot. Now, I'm not going to rewrite the perimeter and the height. We're just going to put the numbers in. So we already know those. So let's go ahead and write those in real quick. We already know that the perimeter is simply 7 plus 7 plus 2 plus 2. We know what the height was. The height was simply 4. So I'm going to put 4 there. Plus. And then we have 2. So I'm going to put that 2 in there. Now, I do want to explain this. It's 2 times big B, which is the area of the base. So for this shape, the way we find the area of the base, and notice, right, this is our base, our big rectangle. So I'm going to draw it real quick. This is our base. And in order to find the area, we have to multiply the length times the width. And we know that our length was 7. So the length is equal to 7. And the width, right, this little short side is 2. So the width is equal to 2. Now also, right, that means this other side's 2, this other side's 7. But remember that whenever we find the area of a rectangle, we just take the length times the width. So in other words, it's going to be 7 times 2. And just as I wrote this out, I'm just going to put it in the calculator, and that'll tell me my total surface area, which we call TSA. Now, just to let you know, the reason we do 2 times the area of the base is because there's 2 bases that we have to cover, right? Imagine we're covering this with wrapping paper, that it's a present for somebody or a gift, right? This is one base down here, and this is another base here. When we found the lateral surface area, we were just talking about the labeling. Like if this was a package, notice there'd be maybe a label here on the sides and the back. And so this side, what we call a side of it, right, the labeling area is the lateral surface area. The total surface area also includes covering the bottom base and the top base with paper as well. And that's why we add 2 times big B, which is 2 times the area of that base, so that we can cover the entire figure. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in my calculator right quick. So I'm going to go ahead and put my parenthesis real fast. So parenthesis 7 plus 7 plus 2 plus 2. That's my perimeter times the height of the shape. And then I'm going to go ahead and add 2 times the area of the base. 7 times 2. And it gives me 100. So for this figure, it's 100 centimeters squared. So if we're just talking about the lateral surface area, the labeling area, I like to call it the labeling area because if you're at the grocery store, right, the area that usually has a label on it, it'd be 72 centimeters squared. But if we're also going to include the top and bottom base, our total surface area would be 100 centimeters squared. And just keep in mind that you're always dealing with units squared when you're talking about surface area.